it really fascinated me this week. You know, we got an idea kind of who was at this camp, and I look out there on the field, and there's Jalyn Gramstad, and he's the reigning NAIA National Player of the Year. So essentially the NAIA Heisman winner. Won the national title as a starting quarterback in 2022, was national runner-up in 2023. He's done everything you can do at the NAIA level. 6,000 yards passing, led NAIA in passing yards last year as a quarterback. He's been a winner, high school state champion, national champion, player of the year. And on a whim, he just shows up to Nebraska's postgraduate camp.
Post-grad camp.
And he didn't tell anybody other than his dad. He goes, Dad, I'm a lifelong Husker. I've wanted to play at Nebraska my whole life. I've done everything I can do at Northwestern. I just want to give this a try, and I just want to size it up. I want to come in there and see what I can do. And he kind of thought it would stay under the radar. I don't think he realized that coaches.
He didn't know you were going to be
well. Not only, I mean, coaches from his own conference were there.
Right.
So Jeff Jamrog and the entire Midland coaching staff, Peru State College and their staff were there. And this is the Johnny Manziel of NAIA football. I mean,
it's a good comparison.
And you know, when he's in there working out, they're probably like giddy. He's like, we might get rid of this guy. He's not going to play him next year.
Oh yeah, he's a terror at that level. I mean, he's a terror. That he's interesting. He's really intriguing. I would just say Nebraska coaches have to be intrigued. I mean, I watched him. I watched his highlights, his film. The only thing would be is if he can't make all the throws. Now, Sean Robb said he can. You watched him. You think arm strength's not an issue?
Well, I'll put it this way. In 15 games, he only threw 9 picks this year.
37 touchdowns, 9
Yeah,
picks.
and 3,600 yards passing, give or take, which led NAIA. And he's essentially almost 1,000-yard rushing quarterback.
He can run. That's the thing, Rob. He's a legit. He'll keep plays alive at the very least, but he can hurt you with his feet. He played safety the first part of his career at Northwestern. He was recruited there as a safety because they had an All-American quarterback at Northwestern. So he played safety at a high level and then told the coach, look, when it's time, I'd like to play quarterback. And it became time, and he became a star at quarterback. So I'd point out the safety part because he's athletic. So I don't know. It just looks to me, God, I hate to say no-brainer in this situation, but it seems like close to that.
Well, they've needed a fourth quarterback. We've known that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't consider Luke Longville, Bodie Sokup. I mean, I don't look at them as a viable fourth guy. You know, that.
Do you look at this? Do you look at Jalyn Gramstad as a viable fourth guy?
Absolutely. I mean, ask yourself this question. If you plugged in Heinrich Harburg right now or Daniel Kalen, could they be named the NAIA National Player of the Year? Could they win a national championship now?
Don't know.
I mean, maybe they could, but it's pretty impressive because that's football. That's a lot of repetitions. That's a lot of football. That's a lot of reading of defenses, making throws. And he's been a 3-time captain. So, and this is a kid that bleeds Husker red. He hates Iowa, by the way. He's from Iowa and does not like Iowa.
Well,
he just won over a whole bunch of listeners right now.
Like him and his dad and grandpa and uncle are diehard Husker fans in the heart of Iowa.
Yeah, so it makes a ton of sense. Like you said, Zip, I think it's bordering no-brainer and really on both sides. I mean, he gets a chance to live out a lifelong dream. Nebraska gets a fourth quarterback with that much experience and clear physical talent. It seems like a no-brainer. What's your read now, Sean? I know he's still waiting on that call from Nebraska. I mean, is this something that you think that they'll make that call and go through with it?
I think they're just learning more. I mean, they didn't know who he was and that he was going to be there. And so I think now they're digging up film and trying to kind of watch and study a little bit more just to do their due diligence.
Yeah, I think you got to look for issues if you're Nebraska.
Just like
they don't readily present themselves in the highlights. I mean, you don't see anything that says, I don't think this will work. You don't. I mean, you put the stats together, you put all the games he's won together, you look at the highlights, you see him, he's got a lot of athleticism. Now, he's only 6 foot. That doesn't bother me that much, but I mean, would that bother them? I don't know.
Well, you're looking at just a good guy to bring in the room. And how many guys can you find that have his resume that are okay with the situation, that understand the situation?
Yeah, that was my whole thing with this whole fourth quarterback, like bringing someone in the offseason. It had to be the right guy, like someone that knows that you're entering a room with Dylan Raiola. with Daniel Kalen.
Right.
Like, you got two young quarterbacks that
Right.
have come highly acclaimed. You got to understand the situation.
Right.
And so there's not a lot of guys that would want.
And
to
here he
join him.
is.
Sounds like he
He
does.
just shows up on your campus.
Voluntarily.
The right guy shows up on your campus. I mean,
Destiny.
he didn't even get invited. Yeah, he doesn't even get invited. He just shows up and says, I'll be that guy.
Yeah, my initial thought was like, God, I mean, I don't want to say tampering, but I'm like, did Nebraska like kind of put a feeler out? Hey, like it just felt like that kind of stuff. There is no transfer portal in NAIA, so they're not a part of the NCAA. So there's no red tape, but he has 1 year of eligibility plus a 4-game red shirt. So he theoretically could be here 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And look, what are the I mean, I'm not saying Kalen or Harburg would leave, but you never know.
No, you never know.
And so you just to have another just a guy, and he wants to be a coach. So I look at it as like, hey, he's played a lot of football. This would be a good guy to have next to Raiola.
Think about what we're talking about. What is Nebraska? How do they kind of sell their recruiting style? They always say we want football players
And winners.
Here's a guy who played safety for 2 years at a high level. He's good safety. I watched his safety tape at West Lyon High School where he played. He was good. A lot of his highlights are from the safety position. He's a football player, and it just makes so much sense. It's amazing that he showed up at this post-grad camp.
He didn't tell his coaches.
Didn't tell his Northwestern
because
coaches.
he didn't expect anybody to know. He thought it was a closed workout. Nope.
See, now if I'm on the Northwestern staff, I'm not saying I'd be angry, but I'd be like, oh man,
He's not on a full ride.
like, might lose it.
So I was asking him this. I go, how does that work? I mean, you're the best player in NAIA. Like, do you still have to pay? He's like, yeah, I still pay like at $2,000-$3,000 a year. I pay the least amount you're allowed to pay, essentially, because it's non-scholarship.
Right. We're doing this on Tuesday. We'll see what happens. I imagine this could all go down fairly quickly.
Yeah. I mean, I think look, they took Luke Longville last year. And when you compare the two, like it's not even compared. I mean, Luke Longville missed a year of high school, his senior year. Luke Longville was a backup at Iowa Western, and they took him a year ago. So if you're trying to compare it, Jack Wolke, I mean, not even comparable. So I think when you're starting to look at what they have, and I think about like what happens if somebody leaves that room, the other of those three.
Yeah.
This is kind of like another version of like a Joe Gans or Noah Vedral, like a guy that you could just have in that room that wants to be at. Now Noah left, but like a guy that wants to be at Nebraska,
Sure.
wants to be a coach someday.
Yeah, I guess what they have to do is try to pick him apart a little bit. Just see if they can find things where they say, no, this doesn't work. Like I said, they're not readily presentable to me, but I haven't watched every play. They'll watch probably just about every play.
I mean, how many guys out there have that much quarterback film and accolades? Not very many.
No.
I think it's notable too that they took him basically on a de facto unofficial visit after the camp.
They just toured him around.
I mean, he got a personal tour of the facilities and all that.
I do think that
they told him they're going to watch his film. So I don't know. Seems kind of like a inevitable thing.
I think so.
I mean, we're trying to find reasons why it shouldn't happen or won't happen.
That's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to find reasons why it wouldn't
work. It makes too much sense for it not to happen.
Yeah.
And also, if you brought another guy in, you wouldn't want somebody that would be like with a resume that are like, if you're the Raiola's, like, God, are they bringing this guy in to like push? I mean, and look, I'm not saying, but Raiola's really good. I believe that. I think he's going to be really good.
I do too.
And so this is a piece that would support and help Raiola.
It would help him. Another check on the side of, why not? This guy could really help Dylan, I think. I mean, he understands the position at a high level, obviously. You can watch him and tell he understands the position. Sean, it just makes a lot of sense.
Well, at that level of football, to make the national championship back-to-back year, that's not easy.
No. Watch his film. It's good. He's good. He's a good player.
So we'll see where that goes. And if they give him a call, and it will move quickly, he'll just show up to Lincoln the next day.
It's back-to-back weeks, Rob. Back-to-back weeks. Really interesting stories. Hofkin was interesting. That whole picture. And then this picture, this guy just shows up in Lincoln, the NAIA National Player of the Year. Just shows up for a post-grad camp.
Let me ask you this,
Happens to be a
guys.
quarterback in a situation that Nebraska would like to address.
What were the two biggest portal needs coming out of the spring? I'll just answer my own question.
Yeah. Please
a
do.
fourth quarterback,
Yeah.
and tackle depth.
Oh God, good point.
What did
Yeah.
Hoofkin
Yep.
and potentially now Gramstad address? I mean,
Yeah.
so, and there, I think in this case it'd be a walk on, obviously, but there's ways to be creative now with walk on. So
Was there any tackles at that post grad camp?
no, it was a light group. I mean, there were 4 or 5 guys there that were good players. But this is the one. And look, they have to be very careful about walk on and ads right now because they don't know the future. Like you're going to see Nebraska be really, really careful with adding walk-ons because what they don't want to do is find out that they're going to cut roster sizes down and they take all these walk-on commits and they have to cut them loose.
Right.
So that might be one hole.
Okay.
But again, this is a premium spot.
Right. Yeah. So post grad camp, think about it. Last year they got James Williams out of the post grad camp. This year it might strike gold again. I mean, they struck gold with James Williams.
Yeah.
They did.
Especially with the developments this offseason that you're talking about.
Yeah. Not only is he a pass rusher, but he could become one of the main pieces of the defense. I mean, that post grad camp looks to be bearing serious fruit.
Yeah, there were 8. I think there were 8 media members there. I mean, so it was heavily covered. I mean, how many places in America have 8 people covering a camp with 40 players in it?
Not many.
So yeah, Gramstad, I think realized quickly it wasn't going to stay quiet that he was here.
Well, I get that why he would think that though. It's just a post grad camp, just going to show him what I can do. Nobody will notice. This is Nebraska.
Well, yeah, and Sioux Falls and Sioux City in that area. I mean, it's a pretty big headline in that part. I mean, they were talking about. I mean, he's the big football player in that part of this country.
Yeah.